fresh elephant tracks there. This is where we saw one elephant yesterday afternoon as well. These are fresh, that's from the last couple of hours, just heading up the road. The same way we are, so maybe we've got some elephants in the area. Normally a branch like this, it's not a problem to drive over. Is that alright? Rob is very brightening behind me, yeah?
It's a little bright, it's cool.
Alright. The reason I stopped for this one is partly to show you a little bit something. So stretch my legs and get some blood flowing so we don't get too cold out here. But obviously from an elephant last night, if you look at this piece, it's where he ate the bark off. That's what the bark looks like. Here's a piece of bark. Literally use the big molar teeth. Imagine if this is just sort of grinding along. Just use the teeth and they literally just bite off the bark. Other reason I stopped is to show you this one, or the other reason I stopped actually to prove it, is that you don't want to drive over this branch. This is a zebra wood. Let me just find you a good example of it. Typically out here you get all your thorn trees that people often talk about. We're probably going to look at this area here. Oh, sorry, just going to get it stable. There we go, that area. You get all your thorn trees. Now thorns typically are adapted leaves. So if you were looking at a acacia or a buffalo thorn, those guys, the thorns on them are spikes made by leaves that over a long period of time, thousands and millions of years, have adapted to become thorns. And then you also get spines, spikes if you want, but spines generally is what they refer to, which is like these guys. Let's just take this one as an example. There you can see it's coming out from the main branch part. Comes out this way, and as you can see along it there are still leaves. So this is essentially a branch, but this branch has adapted or evolved to have a sharp end to it. There you can see the spiky tip. That's quite sharp, but what that means is that this is incredibly strong. You can see me, it's a very strong thorn. So not to get too technical about the language between a thorn and a spike or a spine, but these guys are the ones that give you flat tires. Most of the other thorns, even though they look quite big, the white acacia thorns and so on, you can drive over or you can walk over even with boots, not a problem. These guys, things like your zebra wood, sickle bush, have incredibly tough spines. You go through a tire, so that's why we moved. Another piece of wood that I've noticed along the way. Might be a silly piece of wood that I'm carrying on, but if you look through it, if you look straight through it, get the angle just right, maybe we can get the sun through it. There we go. This way. Look at that.
Front side up.
There we go. It's hollow inside, and that's the case with many logs out here. Is they're hollow inside. They might be hollow for meters, 3-4 meters, 5 meters, 10-15 feet entrances. So that's why so many animals can find themselves awesome little homes in these logs. That's just a good example of it. Little squirrels, birds, hornbills, all kinds of little guys can find themselves homes in here. Alright, well let's continue on down this track. This log, Rob, sorry.
That's cool.
It's a little...
Are you keeping it?
Yeah, I think so. You're right with it there.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then make this a habit. Just that specific one, I think. There's something in it. as well. Maybe a chance of seeing some elephant today. Or maybe some buffalo. Seeing these guys is going to be quite difficult. It's mostly just bush in there. We might actually not spend too much time here. This is literally the best gap we can get around. Rob, if you can just show them some of the fur maybe.
There we go, I see a horn.
There's a buffalo just behind that. I know it's very difficult to see it now. You can almost more see the leaves and the branches moving than you can see the buffalo. Looks like two Duggar boys, old bulls, or mature bulls really. They're not necessarily old, they're normally in their prime. So they're not part of a bigger herd. It'll just be 2 or 3 of them hanging around there enjoying the good grass. And as you can see, I'll put it this way, as you can't see, very, very difficult to make out much of them. You can just sort of see a bit of movement behind there. So I'm not going to spend too much time with them, but they are also heading north, same way as we are heading, and you'll see we're not far from Buffelshoek Dam at the moment. We're going to be there in about 5 minutes. So I'm sure these buffaloes, during the course of today, maybe closer to lunchtime, will be hanging around Buffelshoek Dam. So I'm sure you'll see some more of them again before the sun sets. I think anyone that's an avid wildlife lover has to be an optimist. You think of those buffalo, they were only about 20 meters away from us. It's about 50-60 feet. Not very far away, but it was impossible to see them, and they weigh at 800 kilograms each. They stand 1 meter 60 at the shoulder, big animals, and then we expect to drive around and see little things like leopard that are masters of camouflage and little antelope, and so we're all very optimistic. Hopefully we can all stay optimistic about wildlife in general, where it's going to go, where its future is, what we're going to be sharing with it over the next couple of 100 or 1,000 years. What Buffelshoek's going to have for us today. One hippo. At least the hippo is consistent.